Hi everyone, welcome back to my Sitecore Diaries, your go-to destination for all things in Sitecore and .NET. I'm your host Jitendra Ghanekar. Today we are going to see details about Visual Studio. I thought before starting the real action in C Sharp, better to give a walkthrough of the tool which we are going to use for everything, and that is Visual Studio. But before we move ahead, I have given all my social media accounts on the screen. You can follow me, and if you have any question, you can send me on the email on my email ID. So let's start. So what we are going to see in this video, the preview of the video. So we'll start with what is Visual Studio. Then we will see why we need to use a Visual Studio. Then we will see what are the different Visual Studio editions we have. Then we will see how to install Visual Studio. Then I will give you a walkthrough of the key functionalities of the Visual Studio. And the last one is something, a difference we will see between Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. But before moving to the detail of the topic, make sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Of course, do not forget to like, share and comment the video. Uh, so let's start the action. So let's start with what is Visual Studio. So when you log in, when you start the Visual Studio will something look like this. So what is Visual Studio? Visual Studio is a powerful developer tool that you can use to complete the entire development cycle in one place. So basically Visual Studio is an IDE. IDE is integrated development environment. So it is a development environment. Okay. So Visual Studio is a IDE, a integrated development environment, which is used by developers to complete entire development cycle in one place only. Okay. So you can perform the different activities in the Visual Studio. First thing is a code. So you can do a code in the Visual Studio. Then build. So you can build your code in the Visual Studio. Debug. You can debug your code. You can test your code. You can use a Visual Studio with code repository to maintain the version control. You can collaborate with your team. So you have a multiple team members, and you can use Visual Studio as a collaboration tool. Okay, where you both the different people can work on the same code, same file, same solution. Data handling. Visual Studio allows you to connect to SQL server. Okay, you can do some data handling. Deploy. Of course, you can do a deployment in the Visual Studio. You can use Visual Studio for a deployment purpose. Okay, so these are the high level activities which you can perform. The Visual Studio is an integrated development environment IDE, and this is provided by the Microsoft. It is not language specific IDE. So this IDE is not specific to language. There are around 36 languages supported in the Visual Studio. So that's the reason it is more popular also. It is used to develop computer programs including website, web apps, web services and mobile apps. So basically it is cross platform support we have. You can develop mobile apps also, website also, web services also. The first version of Visual Studio came at the year 1997 and the latest version is year 2022. So currently the latest version is Visual Studio 2022. So let's see why we use a Visual Studio. Easy to write a code and navigate between files, class, interfaces, implementation. So when you start working on the Visual Studio, you will understand it is very easy to write a code. It is very easy to navigate between files, class, interface, implementation by knowing which file is referred. So it is very easy to navigate between the code. Resolving problem easily with NuGet and VS version compatibility is easy. So if there is any version difference, it is very easy to resolve those problems if it is even though it is with the NuGet or VS version. Debugging is powerful. You can debug your Android app wirelessly. You can debug browser JavaScript. So debugging is the best feature of Visual Studio. So it is very powerful in Visual Studio. Workload based installer, install only what you need. So when you install the Visual Studio, you can install what is required for you. So if you are a C# developer, you are a .NET developer, you can install only .NET part. Similarly for the JavaScript and the other things. Okay, so install only what you need. Powerful coding tools and feature, everything you need to build your apps in one place. Powerful tool which has all the features which is required for the coding. Okay, if you have multiple types of apps, all the reference at one place only you can get. Cross-platform development, builds apps for any platform. It supports 36 programming language. Version control integration and collaborate on code with the teammates. So for the use team, you can have the collaboration using the teams. Any developer can work on any of the file. Two people also can work on the same file, and then you can merge the code. So there is a version control also. You can check, compare the code. Okay, what is changed previous, what was the change previously, who has changes, all the things are there. So it is a collaborative tool also. It has an integration with Azure. It has a CPU and memory profiler. It supports DFS, Git, etc. It has an AI assistant development. Write code more effectively with AI assistance. So you can write a code with the help of AI assistants. So these are very high level high level features of a side of the Visual Studio. Okay, so this is most popular IDE tool for a development. So let's see what are the different Visual Studio editions available. So when you talk about the edition of Visual Studio, there are three types of editions available. First is the community, second is the professional, third is the enterprise. So we'll see each of them what it is. First is the community. It is a powerful IDE free for students, open source contributors and individuals. So it is a a free version of a Visual Studio. Its main purpose is to provide the ecosystem, that is access to the thousands of extensions and languages. You can code in C#, VB, F#, C++, HTML, JavaScript, Python, etc. Okay, so community edition is the IDE for student, open source contributor and individual. It is basically a free edition for a non-commercial purpose. Its main purpose is to provide the ecosystem and the language support. Then we have a professional one. Professional IDE is the best suited for a small teams, and its main purpose is to provide a flexibility, productivity, collaboration and subscriber benefits like Microsoft software plus Azure, Pluralsight, etc. So professional IDE is the best used for a small scale teams or organization. It is available it is available for a free trial of trial. After the trial period, the user has to pay to continue using it. So it is a mid-level edition. Okay, community is for the a learning purpose, or a students who can use it, or the contributors who can utilize it. For R&D you can use it, whereas the professional one is the for the mid-scale organization. You have a small teams, then you and small projects, then you can use the professional version of the Visual Studio. There are some limitation which you can have. I will give the link to up in the description, which will actually tell you what are the features which is available between on the community, on the professional, and the enterprise level. Okay, now what is enterprise? The scalable end-to-end solution for teams for any size. The main benefit of this edition is that it is highly scalable and deliver a high quality software. So Microsoft provides a 90 days free trial of this edition, and after the trial period, the user has to pay to continue using it. So it's a main version which you can use for a commercial purpose. If you have a huge team, then you can use this version. It has a lot of other benefits also, and you can try it for a 90 days free trial, and then you have to buy the version. So these are the three editions which is available with the Visual Studio: Community, Professional, and Enterprise. For our development purpose, you can download the Community edition and you can use that, and that is what we are going to do in the next section, that is installation of a Visual Studio. So you can download the Visual Studio from the link which I'm showing on the screen, from the visualstudio.microsoft.com/downloads. You will see this kind of a page there, where you will see there are three different editions available: Community, Professional, Enterprise. You can freely download the Community edition. You can use a free trial of a Professional and Enterprise edition. Okay. So now we will walk through the Visual Studio. I will show you some key features which will cover, like a project creation, debugging, attaching W3WP process, how to use the init window, building the code, publishing the code, package manager. Then you can see a code reflection and few shortcut keys which we can use. Okay, so let's go through the code, and then let's go through the my screen, and we will see the how does the Visual Studio works. Okay, to download the Visual Studio, you can go to visualstudio.microsoft.com/downloads. Okay, if you see here downloads, you have three options, three editions. First is a community, then professional, enterprise. So community you can freely download. You have a professional one, you can have a free trial or enterprise trial. So if you just click on it, it will download the file. See, Visual Studio setup, it will download. If you can click on that, and you can start installing it. Okay, I am not doing it because I have already done the installation. Okay, so once you click on a Visual Studio, and from your menu you will this interface will open. So this is the starting point of the Visual Studio. Please note, it is better to work on the administrative mode. Okay, so that you can perform all the activities in Visual Studio. So always start your Visual Studio with administrative mode. If you see here, the first section of this Visual Studio will give you what are the different projects which we have opened. So this month and older will have a list of a project. I'm not opening it here. I'm not showing it here due to the privacy reason. And then we have this section, okay, where you can clone a repository. You can open an existing project. You can open a local folder. You can create a new project. You can start without continuing without a code also. Okay, so if I click on the create a new project, it will provide you the different templates which you can use for the creation of a project. So these are the different templates which are available. Okay, there are different kind of projects. You can have a console app, you can have a web app. Okay, so for demo purpose, let's try to create some MVC application. Okay, so if you search with MVC, okay, if you see here ASP.NET Web Application, .NET Framework, project template for creating ASP.NET application, web application. Okay, I click on this. It will ask you to where to create the project. It can ask you the what is the version which you want to use it, what is the solution name. After that, as we are want to create a MVC, it has the three different options here: web form, MVC, web API. So I will just select the MVC. Now if you see, it is automatically created the complete MVC project here. Okay, the structure is here. Okay, controller, model, view. You can add your own code. Web.config is here, global.access is here. Now if you go to the menu at top, there is a menu. We have a file. From here you can create a new project. You can open some repository. You can open a file, solution, existing solution from here. There are other options also here. You can edit, then view. So this is very important section where you can have a different windows like solution explorer. If you see here right hand side, you have a solution explorer, okay, where your solution is open. You can connect to the git explorer, you can connect to team explorer, server explorer. There are many different options are available. If you go to the other windows, you have a command line command window also. Okay, I'm not going in detail there. Then you have a project section, build. The build will basically use for a building your application. Then you can have a debug menu where you can use it for debugging. Okay, then you can use for testing. You can use the test section. You have a code analyzer here. There are different tools which you can use. You can add your extension here. So window is if you want to do a small or however you want to do, and the help one. Okay, now this is how Visual Studio looks like. Okay, now if you want to write any code, so let's say example I want to add some controller. If I could do the right click add, I can add the controller also. You can see a new item or a controller. If I create a new item, it will give me different option what kind of a item you want to create. Whereas I can add directly a controller. It will ask you whether you want to empty controller, you want a read write action controller, you want entity use MVC controller with entity framework. We'll just say MVC controller with read write action. You can give the name. I'm just giving you the default here. So if you see, it is automatically created a class and the action methods. Okay, this is how it is quick. If you want to refract any code, then if you select anything, right click here, a quick action refracting. If I do a quick action, you can create a different method altogether. Okay, it's a very easy to do the refraction, refracting the code. Now if you want to build the solution, okay, this is your solution here. So if you want to build it, just right click it and you have a build solution, rebuild solution, clean solution option, which you can use it. You can analyze your code, clean up. Okay, there are many other things. If you want to do the update the menu and you get package, you can just simply go to the manual and you get package. Here you have an option to select any package. Anything you can select. If you see a different newtons of JSON and other things are there, so whatever you want to select, you can select it and install it. Okay, that is your NuGet package installation. Then you want to build it. Let's build it. Okay, if I click on a build, if you see here, there is an output created here. It is building the solution. Okay, it has built it. Okay, now in case you want to debug the application, there are two things which you can do. You can, if it is you want to do the run this application, you can simply double click on any point. If you see here, you can double click on any point, it will create a debugger and you keep it in the debug mode and just run it. It will stop there. Okay, can set this project as a starting project. Okay, Then if you want to attach the W3 WP, then you should have to go to the debug. Okay, attach to process. Any process which you want to attach, you can simply attach it. You can select process for all user, whatever your requirement. Depending on that, you can find any so process which you want to add it. Okay, now if you want to publish it, here is the option. If you right click the code, you have an option here, publish. If you click on a publish, it will provide a multiple options here, whatever you want to use: Azure, Docker Container Registry, folder, FTP server, web server, import any profile, other profile you want to import, you can use it. So let's say, let's do it on the folder. It will ask you which folder you want to publish. Okay. It has published it on this folder. Okay. So this is how the Visual Studio runs. So there are when you publish it, there are two modes we can have. You can have a release mode, you can have a debug mode in building also. So it is basically debugging when you are debugging the code, and releasing when you want to deploy it on the production or any other environment. You can go for a release. In some, in another, maybe we will have a different video on this topic where we will see what is debug and what is release mode. So this is how the high level the Visual Studio looks like, and you whatever coding which we will be doing in this series of a C#, so that you have to do it on the Visual Studio. So this is the reason why I choose this topic to prepare a video, because I thought that there might be a people who is starting from zero, so they should be knowing it with the Visual Studio. So if you are planning to make your career in the programming, I think this is the tool which you are going to use it day all the day. Whatever work which you are going to do, most of the time you are going to use the Visual Studio only. So this is what Visual Studio is. I'm displaying a few shortcut keys used in Visual Studio. I'm not covering all the keys. Please have a look at them. You can utilize these keys to improve your productivity while working in Visual Studio. Okay, now we have seen the walkthrough of the Visual Studio. The next topic on the agenda is Visual Studio versus Visual Studio Code. Sometimes when we speak about Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code, people think it is the same, but it is not. Of course, both the software are provided by the Microsoft. So what are those? So Visual Studio is an IDE which we have seen. It is a fully equipped to build the complete application, whereas VS Code is a text editor. That is very important. Visual Studio is an IDE, whereas Visual Studio Code is a text editor. You can use it to develop and debug your code. Visual Studio is a bit slower side, whereas VS Code is a quick due to its a lightweight nature. So it is very light, so it is very quick. Visual Studio Community Edition is a free, but the Professional and Enterprise Edition requires monthly payment. Whereas VS Code is completely free of cost, it is open source. Visual Studio engages a highly advanced intelligence, also has a Intel code and AI powered code completion aid. Intelligence is comparatively not up to the mark. Visual Studio is heavy, so it requires 20 to 50 GB space minimum, whereas the Visual Code is a pretty lightweight, less than 500 MB will work. Visual Studio has a built-in support for multiple languages such as C++, C#, JavaScript, TypeScript, Python, .NET, etc. VS Code supports JavaScript, TypeScript, and Node.js out of box, but it also supports other programming language as long as the extension is exists. So we will need an extension to use other languages for the Visual Studio. So this is a very high level difference between Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. So when you heard about we are using Visual Studio and we are using Visual Studio Code, so remember though the things are different. Okay, Visual Studio is more an IDE, whereas Visual Studio Code is more as a text editor. Okay, so this is the difference between Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. So we have done for today. So today we have seen the basic topic, that is Visual Studio, which we will be using in any activity which we are going to perform now onwards as a developers. So this is very critical, with his critical topic to understand. I hope you like this video. If yes, then please click on a like button and upload this video. Throw some love in the comment section, provide your feedback, ask your questions if you have any. If you have not already subscribed, then hit the subscribe button, click on the notification bell and stay connected with my Sitecode Diaries.